We are gathered here tonight to honor the memory of Chung Ling Soo, the greatest stage magician in history. I'd like to tell you something about the last feat of magic that Chung Ling Soo ever performed on stage. It was called Defying the Boxers. Now let me explain. Chung Ling Soo was not Chinese. His name was William Robinson, and he was born in New York. He had a long career as a stage assistant to some traveling magic shows, the big traveling magic shows of his day in the golden age of magic, and he learned an awful lot about how to do a big stage show. He finally struck out on his own, and after a couple of false starts, came up with a lavish Chinese act, which he kept up off stage. Chung Ling Soo was the most grandiose, lavish thing anyone had ever seen. And he performed in Europe, mostly in England, and he encountered a peculiar publicity problem. There was something in China called the Boxer Rebellion. Has anyone ever heard of that? Yeah. Chinese rebelled against British colonial rule, and during the Boxer Rebellion, many British troops and some Chinese sympathetic to the crown were killed. It was not a funny thing. And so Chung Ling Soo had to figure out how to deal with this as a fake Chinese magician. And he claimed that he had been in China at the time of the Boxer Rebellion. And because of his deep and abiding loyalty to the crown and his affection for England, he was rounded up as a British sympathizer. And he was sentenced to death before the firing squad. But such was the power of the marvelous Chinese conjurer that he survived the firing squad of the Boxers. And he went on to demonstrate that little bit of his personal history on stage from time to time. Here's what you would have seen if he performed Defying the Boxers. His assistants would come on stage with some antique muzzle-loading rifles. Other assistants would go into the audience and present audience members with bullets, which they could scratch marks into with a penknife. They'd bring the bullets up on stage. He would select volunteer marksmen, people with experience with firearms. Soldiers, often in uniform, would come on stage and receive the antique firearms. He would produce gunpowder, show that it was genuine by igniting a sample. The soldiers would load the powder into the muzzle-loading rifles. They would load the wadding, and then they would load the marked bullets. The volunteer marksmen would take their place on the side of the stage, and Chung Ling Soo stood on the other side of the stage, holding a porcelain plate in front of his chest, like a shield. The marksmen would ready their rifles, aim, and fire. Chung Ling Soo would lower the plate and spit out onto the plate 2 bullets. He carried the plate across the stage to the marksmen for them to examine the bullets and verify that those were the rounds that they had fired. Now, my friends, our insurance company won't allow us to have firearms in the theater. I'm sure you can understand. Unfortunately for us, in the 1980s, a new sport swept the country, a sport called paintball. This is a paintball round. It's a gelatin capsule filled with dye. When it strikes a target, the capsule breaks, splattering the target with paint. The device used to fire the paintball is called a marker. It operates using compressed gas and a powerful spring. It is technically not a firearm. Here's how it operates. The paintball is placed in the loader. The safety is on. The paintball is placed in the loader. And when the pump is operated, the round is chambered. The safety is off, and the gun is live. Now, my friends, while this is technically not a firearm. It is still an instrument of violence. Watch. They don't break sometimes. Did you get splattered, sir?
It's intact.
It's intact. Well, you can keep that as a souvenir of your evening. Yeah. Do we have anyone here who has experience with firearms? Really, security personnel, military personnel, police, sportsmen. You play paintball?
I've got one, yeah.
Oh, okay. You just shoot it around the house just to, you know, more fun than right now. Walls. All right, there's a selection of paintballs there. Just take one, any color you like. All right. And we've got a marker here. You can put your initials, an identifying symbol of some kind, anything where you'll be able to identify that later on. All right, are you happy? Okay. Now the safety is on. What we're going to do is we're going to allow you to load the paintball into the loader. In it goes. You see it's in there, sir. All right? I'm going to operate the pump, and you see the round is chambered.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the safety off. The gun is now live. I want you to be very careful when you pick the gun up, all right?
Okay.
I'm not going to pick it up again. We have a couple other things for you. You might recognize these. Okay, I'm going to ask you to take your place right where I'm standing, and I'm going to stand on the other side of the stage. Now, Troy, I want you to listen very carefully to my instructions and follow them exactly. When I say ready, pick up the gun and keep your finger outside the trigger guard. When I say aim, put your finger inside the trigger guard, raise the gun, and aim directly at my face. When I say fire, pull the trigger. Ready. Pick up the gun and keep your finger outside the trigger guard. Wait. I didn't finish my story. I didn't tell you why defying the boxers was the last feat of magic that Chung Ling Soo ever performed on stage. On March 23rd, 1918, while performing the bullet catch at the Wood Green Empire in London, Chung Ling Soo was killed on stage. Ready? Aim. Fire! Examine it for marks. Is that the round you fired?
Yes, it is.
Join me center stage. To your left hand. Ladies and gentlemen, Chung Ling Soo. Thank you very much, Troy.